Sunday Night Football into my veins. It's Chief. It's TJ. It's the NFL Showdown pre-lock show coming up with a great Sunday of NFL action. A lot of interesting occurrences. Giants get a win over the Chargers. Chiefs look like the Chiefs of old. Lamar Jackson goes down with a hamstring. Cooper Rush plays in the game late. A lot of interesting things happen, and I'm hoping that a few interesting things happen tonight in our favorite, TJ, as we cover the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. Even the stream is getting into it with us. The stream has their energy turned up, turned itself back on with the music. Good to see everybody. Thank you all for joining us, and hopefully we have the goods tonight to carry you to the money. TJ, take it away. How we doing, brother?
Doing very well. Had a very solid day today. I had a team that put up about 195 with Darnell Mooney, who got hurt in the second quarter. So solid day. Made a couple $100. Not close to greatness, Couple plays like, oh man, A.D. Mitchell. Did you see A.D. Mitchell's fumble through the end zone on the 1 yard line?
Oh yeah.
Couple of plays like that brought us down a little, but still a very good day.
Yeah, same here, man. I did okay in DFS. Had a really nice day in the prop streets. Got back to some tackle props, and tackle props treated me well. I was pretty much, like I said, one tackle away from, or one tackle away. I didn't talk to you about that one. So I was one tackle away from one really big card and a few Chuba Hubbard rushing attempts and another big card, but still had an okay day. Still had a good day. We're going to carry that into Sunday Night Football. Folks, if this is your first time joining us, we want to thank you for inviting us into your homes across the airways. We appreciate it. Definitely want to continue to provide you this great content. TJ, we're going to kick it off at captain or MVP, depending on where you're playing. Obviously, we know FanDuel has the MVP, and FanDuel has caught up with the times with the inflated salary, TJ, when you're going to pick that MVP, right along with DraftKings, who does the same thing for their captain position. I've got a favorite captain today, TJ. I'm interested in who your favorite captain is, and then we'll start getting a little spicy. TJ, favorite captain or MVP? Let's hear it. Ultimate mute, my friend. Ultimate mute.
Oh, I unmuted too, and it just didn't click. I clicked the wrong spot. Josh Jacobs is, the optimal option, the cash game option. He's going to be very, very chalky, especially in single entry in that spot. My favorite pivot off of him today is going to be Jordan Love. Anytime you can get a quarterback projecting for single-digit ownership, that we're expecting to put up a ton of points, I love that spot. Everybody's kind of thinking Josh Jacobs is going to get the touchdowns, and yeah, he'll probably get at least one. But if Jordan Love happens to go for 3 or 4, we're going to want him in the captain spot today, especially if they're spread out among these receivers. And so Jordan Love, I think, is going to be my favorite pivot off of Jacobs. And then if I'm trying to get a little bit spicier, I'm trying to get different, I do think I want to go with one of these Packers receivers. So somebody like a Matthew Golden or a Dontavian Wicks, maybe even Romeo Doubs at the captain or MVP position.
Interesting. Get it spicy already, TJ. I typically hate the Packers passing game because I don't know which one of these guys is going to be the one that gets there. But obviously, if you look at the tournament side of it, any one of those guys could pop big. I want to bring up something that's not usually in my wheelhouse, TJ. So this is a little off the beaten path in terms of how I like to play Showdown, but I'm very interested in your take here. So we've got the Cowboys playing without CeeDee Lamb, who's their typical number one receiver, but we've got a guy in George Pickens that is obviously, TJ, could step right in and be their number one. This is basically going to be the Cowboys of last year when they had, or maybe 2 years ago, I think it was, when they had Brandon Cooks on the outside. So Kevontae Turpin and one of these other guys would be like Brandon Cooks. We all know that George Pickens is going to be the number one receiver tonight, in my estimation. If he's not, something's wrong with the Cowboys. But interestingly enough, TJ, what in the world is going on with Jake Ferguson and these double-digit targets per game? I'm semi-interested in a Jake Ferguson captain tonight getting that much volume. TJ, 10 catches, even for 80 yards and a touchdown, getting the discount. I'm very interested in Ferguson captain tonight or MVP because of the salary. So getting to a guy like Ferguson in the captain, TJ, continues to open it up for me, allows me to be a little bit more creative. I could essentially get Jordan Love and Dak in the flex and go from there. What are your thoughts on Ferguson? Because I think the volume is too much. He's pretty much getting number one receiver volume, and he's got some touchdown equity. I'm very interested in Ferguson captain. What are your thoughts?
I have no problem with that whatsoever. And, taking it a step further, I think it's very interesting to go Jake Ferguson captain with no Dak Prescott. I think that is a really interesting way to build today because I don't think the Cowboys offense is going to do great. I think Dak is going to be running for his life all day long.
I just saw the Browns beat the Packers. I'm not sold on that theory.
But what was the score?
Hey, listen, doesn't matter. The Cowboys offense is better than the Browns offense in my estimation.
True, but 13-10 was the score in that one, and the Browns scored all of their points very, very late. I'm not saying that the Cowboys defense is a lot worse than the Browns defense. I can't see them sticking with this game. I think Micah Parsons is going to have a field day. But having said that, I think Dak is going to be under insane pressure. And so who is he going to be probably throwing it to the most? He's going to have to get people on those quick routes on an inside receiver. It's going to be Jake Ferguson and maybe Kevontae Turpin. And so I'm looking at some builds right now that have Jake Ferguson at captain. And I love that call. I think that's a great call because, like you said, with all those targets, Chief, even if they don't score a ton of points, he could have 10 catches, right?
Yeah.
And so especially on a site like DraftKings, that could be really beautiful. And so I'm looking at some lineups that I really like with Jake Ferguson, the captain, and completely omitting Dak Prescott.
And let me say this too, TJ. I don't want anybody to think I feel like the Cowboys are actually going to win this game because I'm not saying that. But I think this game might be sneakily high scoring. Like they're not in Green Bay. They're in Dallas. They're in Jerry's World, in the Dome, fast track. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, TJ. I reserve the right to be wrong, but I got a feeling there's going to be some points scored in this game, and so that's why I'm really interested in both of these quarterbacks. Any other tidbits at the quarterback position, at the captain position that you want to throw in?
No, I don't think so. I think we nailed it. Kind of as a recap, Josh Jacobs, both on FanDuel and DraftKings, he is the optimal cash game choice. I think my favorite direct pivot is Jordan Love on both sides, projecting for pretty low ownership for a quarterback that's expected to put up a ton of points. And then if we're making a pivot off of them, I love the Jake Ferguson call. I think that's a great idea. And then the other guys I'd be looking to go to would be a Matthew Golden or a Dontavian Wicks, or if you're trying to get real spicy, a Kevontae Turpin.
Okay, sounds good. We're going to move to running back. I think we know what we're doing. Well, let's talk about quarterback briefly. I'm trying to get to both today, TJ, for what it's worth. My game script in my head is shootout. So that's kind of the build approach that I'm going to take. I like Love and I like Dak. I almost like Dak a little bit more than Love because it's so. The way I think about it is this. In my head, the game script goes like this. The Packers jump out. The Cowboys have to keep up. They close the gap, and it's late in the game, and maybe they're close enough to try to close the gap in winning. And pretty much third and fourth quarter, they have to abandon the run and start airing this thing out to make up some ground. And thus, Dak Prescott goes for 250 and 3. Jordan Love gets his early. First half, TJ, something like 150 and 2. Gets one late. Josh Jacobs rushes one in. You know what I'm saying? And then everything else in the second half is gravy. That's my game script in my head. We closed the half out with a Brandon Aubrey field goal for 55 yards. And we go into halftime something like 24-13, and the Cowboys come out and have to kind of sling this thing around to get rolling. Hopefully, if that happens, TJ, people are going to think I have the script for this game. What are your thoughts? Let's just hop in quarterback real quick, and then we'll move to running back.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility. I'm having trouble. I just want to play both Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs so badly that I'm having a tough time unless I am using one of these cheap captains to get Dak Prescott in there as well. And so Prescott is definitely the one of this group that I'm going lowest. I'm the most underweight on. I have no issue with playing him. I just find myself wanting to get to Jacobs and Love more, and it's difficult to get all three of them. In terms of the running backs today, I'm fully fading Javonte Williams. I'm not getting to any of him at all. I do understand that he's going to be very low owned today, and so that is just like a way to get different than the field is play the script that Cowboys are going to go up to an early lead, and it's because of Javonte Williams. And so that definitely is a unique large field GPP option. Would not try and talk anybody off of that. I'm just not getting there in my lineups.
Understood. All right, we're going to move to running back, TJ. And so obviously we know Josh Jacobs is kind of the guy at running back. He's going to get all the work he can handle. I'm expecting him to be a true bell cow in the fourth quarter of this game, especially late, unless the game script goes against, my thoughts. Obviously, Javonte Williams has been involved, but additionally, TJ, if they're behind, his carries will probably take a dip. I think he did have 5 catches last week for like 16 yards or something like that. So he will be involved in the passing game. And I guess we just have to hope that he kind of pops one or two big receiving runs or receptions and then puts up tremendous yards after the catch. I like Javonte Williams. I don't love Javonte Williams, but I do think he's going to be a big part of their game plan today. Jacobs versus Williams. I'm sure you're taking Jacobs. I like Williams also, though. What are your thoughts between the two starting running backs?
Yeah, that's what I just went through. Javonte Williams only in like a specific Cowboys are coming from a head build. I'm not getting there personally, but I have no problem if people want to.
Okay, all right. And I like Williams not nearly as much as I like Jacobs. I almost don't want to leave him out. We also, do you think he's getting too much work though to not like consider him more strongly?
Javonte?
Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
if he was cheaper, yes, but at $9K on DraftKings, he needs 100 yards and a touchdown or 50 yards and 2 touchdowns, which I just don't know that happens against the Packer defense. So in a very specific build of Cowboys get out to an early lead, and it's because Javonte Williams breaks off a big one, or Pickens has a bomb and then Javonte plugs one in, and they end up kind of getting ahead on them early, and so that secures that game script workload. Otherwise, I just don't think I get there because I don't think he can pass catch his way to being optimal at that high of a salary.
But if he was cheaper, you'd be more interested.
Yeah, 100%.
Gotcha. Speaking of cheaper, looking to get into NFL DFS access this season, why not get more bang for your buck with this Combo Pro deal? For a limited time, you can get your first month of Combo Pro for just $79.99. That's $5 more than an NFL DFS monthly subscription. Don't pass up this elite value, the Javonte Williams wish list RotoGrinders Combo Pro for $79.99. Folks, back to our regular scheduled programs. TJ, let's hop into wide receiver. Obviously, George Pickens is the guy tonight, in my opinion. He's 9,800. There's no CD Lamb. 9,800 on DraftKings, excuse me. Let me be a little bit more specific. And he is 10-6 on FanDuel. Should be the main option at wide receiver. And I'm being very specific in my word choice because I do think Jake Ferguson has number one wide receiver target share tonight. But at the wide receiver position, TJ, I think George Pickens should get all the targets he can handle. I like him better than any Green Bay receiver. What are your thoughts?
With you there as well. No, I think I like the Green Bay guys better just because of their price. So I don't know that Dak is going to have the time to sit back and launch the deep balls today. I think it's going to have to be a lot of quick passes. And that's not Pickens' forte. So I'm going to be underweight. I do still have some George Pickens today. I'm not fully fading, but I want to get to as much Jacobs and Love as possible. And so that leads me to getting those cheaper Packer players instead.
Understood. I like Pickens. TJ, we're on the opposite end of this thing tonight. So somebody's going to be a genius and somebody's going to lose all their money. We'll figure that out.
I do have 0% Pickens right now. That's scary.
We'll figure out who at the end of the night. You mentioned the Green Bay receivers. I know you've talked about all of them a little bit. Do you have a favorite out of that group that you like more?
Matthew Golden's going to be my number one. Like, he's been so close to connecting on so many big plays early.
And they're using him like Deebo Samuel too.
Yeah, like they want to get him involved. I think he's only going to become more and more involved as the season goes on, especially without Jaden Reed in there. And so Matthew Golden is my first choice. Second is Dontavian Wicks, just because he's such a great salary saving option. And then third is actually my favorite Dallas receiver, and that's Kevontae Turpin at only 4,400 on DK. Nice salary saving option on both sites. He is, I think, going to be heavily involved because they're going to need to get the ball out quick. And he's getting some slot work without CeeDee Lamb in there as well. So Kevontae Turpin and Devontae Wicks, by far my two favorite salary saving options today. And then third, I would put Romeo Doubs, just kind of in a salary tier that I'm not getting to a ton.
Okay, understood. TJ, I'm going to skip tight end for a second. I'm going to go to, I feel like always, in my opinion, one of my favorite positions on Showdown. Both of these kickers, though, are taking up some salary tonight. Both are over 5K. We've got McManus. We've got Brandon Aubrey. Both of these guys, TJ, can absolutely have the leg to kick. I like McManus quite a bit tonight because I think Green Bay is going to be able to move the ball, if that makes any sense. So when I got an offense that I think is going to be able to move the ball, I don't expect them to score a touchdown every time they drive down the field. So field goals will come into play at some point. And obviously we know Dallas is going to trust Brandon Aubrey anywhere inside of 60 yards. If I'm not mistaken, I think he made like a 60-plus yarder last week or the week before. But the guy's got leg. Both of these guys are professional kickers in this league. Both kick the ball pretty well. How are you feeling about Aubrey versus McManus?
McManus is my first choice just because I think Green Bay is going to be playing from a lead. My expected outcome is that they get ahead a fair, decent amount in this one, meaning that Dallas is going to have to be throwing a lot, coming from behind, and then hopefully not settling for field goals. Having said that, I do think Green Bay kind of is a good team to target kickers with, just because they have such a good defensive line that when a team's driving on them, you can end the third down in a sack, and then teams have no choice but to kick the field goal. And Brandon Aubrey is, I think, kind of bar none, like without discussion, the best kicker in all of football. And so with that being the case, I do want to get to a lot of Aubrey as well. He's expensive. I'm having a tough time getting there. Like, there's a lot of lineups I end up with enough for Brandon McManus, but not enough for Brandon Aubrey. So McManus, I'm finding myself prioritizing over Aubrey just because of price, and I think they're playing with the lead, but I do like Brandon Aubrey a lot as well.
Okay. Yeah, I like them both. I do like McManus a little bit more today for most of the reasons you stated, TJ. I just think, when a team goes up, it's not that they're playing conservative. They just start taking points to push the lead because they're saying, hey, let's just not turn it over, right? Let's take as many points as we can every time we can. So I agree with you 100%. Going to pop back. We're going to come to tight end last, TJ. Going to keep moving along the defenses. I've looked in the chat tonight, and it looks like everybody's interested in Green Bay. You know how I feel about defense, TJ. It's very volatile. I know we're playing. I think everybody's trying to play Micah Parsons' revenge narrative, Cowboys O-line terrible narrative. I'm just not sold. I don't care. I know. Listen, TJ, I know defense will help somebody win a showdown a few times a year out of all of them. I'm not playing defenses. What are your thoughts?
Not a big priority for me, but I am playing some defense. I have them in the Packers D in 2 of my lineups today. Dallas defense is cheap enough that you can play them too, even though they're awful. Like they can block a punt and return it for a touchdown. They can return a kick for a touchdown. But I don't have any interest really in Dallas. I am getting to some Packers, but only as just kind of like if they fall in my lineup, I'd rather the kickers. But if I'm already playing the kickers, sure, I'll play Packers defense. And then one of my main lineups is a Packers onslaught lineup. So Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, McManus, Packers defense. And so I like them in that settings.
Okay.
Sounds if good. You want to play a Javonte Williams captain lineup, put yourself some Cowboys defense in there.
I get it. I totally get it. Game script, correlation, it all works. And let me do this, TJ, before we close out and go to tight end. What are your thoughts on correlation? Like, I do like to build with some correlation. It's not my end-all, be-all. I don't force it, right? Like, I'm not just like, every lineup I build has got to be ultimate correlation. But if it fits, it works. I do like to use it. And so I think my correlation tonight, once again, is I'm expecting fireworks in this game. So I'm actually kind of building a bit more offensive than usual. And what I mean by that, TJ, is I'm building for both offenses to score. Kind of a back and forth affair. And I'm probably going to limit it to just one kicker from either side in any build that I have. What are your thoughts? And once again, this is showdown. And so I know you're thinking, well, Chief, how could it just be correlation? Similar to something TJ said. Javonte Williams captain, Dallas Cowboys defense. And honestly, TJ, if I'm running Javonte Williams captain, Dallas Cowboys defense, I almost want to play Kevontae Turpin just because I might get the double dip for a punt return or something like that. So at any rate, just want to kind of put that out there. What are your thoughts on the type of correlation you might be leaning to for this game? Because if we're getting Josh Jacobs captain, then I think if we're playing Josh Jacobs captain, we really need to have Dak in this passing game on the other side of it tonight, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, either Dak in the passing game or just the Packers onslaught with the Packers defense with the McManus in there. I typically like to build with correlation when I'm hand building, which is usually what I do for Showdown. Like I personally like to hand build 1 to 10 lineups, and I'll put them in the large field stuff, but most of my entry fees goes toward far smaller field stuff. And so with that, I typically like to correlate not every player, but I like to have my lineup tell a story. I like to say, okay, if this happens and this happens, I could see this lineup being optimal because of this specific game script. Having said that, if I'm running 20, 50, 100, 150 lineups in large field stuff only, I frankly don't really care about correlation. Like if I'm shooting for first place in those, it's first or last. It's not just about building up my bankroll and making sure I'm cashing some of these lineups. Then you don't really need to worry about correlation in Showdown because most lineups will be correlated. And so it's the uncorrelated ones that often end up at first place.
Okay, TJ, last but not least, going to close this thing out at tight end. You already know how I feel about Jake Ferguson, Luke Shoemaker, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, any of these other guys you want to sprinkle in?
Tucker Kraft, I do think it's a good play today just because I think he's going to go a little under-owned since he's so expensive on both sites. And so with that being the case, I do like some Tucker Kraft. He's been Jordan Love's favorite target so far this season. He's been really good. So I put Jake Ferguson pretty much like Tucker Kraft basically on the same tier as Jake Ferguson. But I really like both of these guys today. I think they're two of the very best plays on the slate. Backups, I'm not getting to.
Okay, sounds good. TJ, we're hopping into questions, sir. Everybody knows the drill. I'm hopping into the live stream chat first, then I will hop into the YouTube chat. This one coming from our good friend, Carolina Guy, 828 Chief, FanDuel GPP favorite low-owned MVP. I think this is across the board for me today. Absolutely, Jake Ferguson. And then favorite low-owned flex. We didn't mention this guy's name a lot, but Jalen Tolbert. I don't think he's going to get nearly as much ownership as it feels like he's not as popular as Cavante Turpin. Oh, only a smidge. But I think Jalen Tolbert. Look, he had 6 targets last week. I'm expecting him to pick up some targets again this week. Give me Jalen Tolbert when I feel like everybody when I feel like the carrot dangling before our eyes, TJ, is Cavante Turpin. Not that I don't like Turpin either. I'm just saying I think Tolbert has a shot at some fantasy points here also. That's me on FanDuel. This is coming from Luke Cage 78, TJ. It says DK GPPs, Jacobs captain. Do you want to play Wicks or Dobbs in the flex?
If I can afford him, Dobbs. I like Dobbs better straight up. I'm just using Wicks more for salary savings.
Okay, sounds good. I am hopping into the YouTube chat to take on questions there. I'm going in reverse. This has come from Don't Play. I'm your daddy. Would you captain Packers D for DK? I am not. TJ?
I'd probably have to be playing about 20 lineups before I got to one Packers D at captain. And again, like when you're doing that, I want to make sure I have Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, and Brandon McManus all in that lineup. Maximum one Dallas player.
Okay, this is coming from We Major 72. We Major, I already answered this, but I will repeat myself. Not a problem. I like Ferguson for a favorite low-owned MVP, and then Jalen Tolbert in the flex on FanDuel is just a low-owned flex. I am looking. I don't see any other questions, TJ, which is very interesting. But I think we are good. Anything else, TJ, you want to add for the people? Anything spicy that we need before we peel out of here?
No, especially on DraftKings, I'd say where it's point per reception. Don't be afraid to get different at captain tonight. I absolutely like Josh Jacobs is probably going to be, especially in single entry, 40% owned and probably upwards of 20% in large field stuff. So don't be afraid to go to the Jake Fergusons, Matthew Goldens, Dontavian Wicks, Cavante Turpins at the captain tonight. I think they all make for very, very interesting options. A couple people asking about can we briefly talk about the Sunday night, Monday night football slate? Absolutely. Ask some specific questions for it. Like we prepared for this slate, not that one, so we don't have a full breakdown ready to go, but ask specific questions and we can still get you covered for some of these. Favorite quarterback for mine, I think it's actually not particularly close. I think it's Justin Fields as my top quarterback. Miami's defense has just been absolutely atrocious lately. He has been fully cleared. He has practiced fully, and he's going to be starting that game. So Justin Fields, my top quarterback. Defense, play any of them. If you can get to the Packers, great. If not, play whoever fits your lineup. Who would be? Do you know who your running back priorities would be on that slate?
I mean, there's kind of a big. If you're playing on FanDuel, honestly, Javante's too cheap, man. Like seriously, Javante's like 6,900 on FanDuel on that slate. I think he's a little bit too cheap. J.K. Dobbins is fine. Like he's 6,600. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
For me, it's Breece, Achane, and Dobbins as my priorities there. I think all.
And I don't mind Jacobs, obviously, but I'm saying like Javonte and Dobbins, you're getting a huge discount on those guys.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be fading Jacobs still. Like I'd be going Dobbins, and then I love Breece Hall and Devon Achane. It's like the three guys I'd probably be going with most. The Jets and Miami game would be the place I'd be trying to get the most exposure. And then if I'm not playing the Packers D, I'd be looking to go like J.K. Dobbins, Denver D is my top little correlation spot.
Yep. I think is that all the questions now, TJ? I didn't see any additional. So. Okay. All right, folks. I'm hopping back to the live stream chat just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I appreciate you guys. Yep. Don't see any more questions. Guys, this has been the Showdown pre-lock show on a big Sunday on Flying On Bar. Hopefully we got to all of your Monday questions. For everybody else that had questions on the Showdown slate, hopefully we took care of it. Make sure you go and roster Jake Ferguson tonight in the captain a few times, and please let me know when you win the Millie. Love you guys. Appreciate it. That's TJ. I'm Chief. We're out of here. See you next Sunday.